Kevin Stefanski has been caught in a lie, and not just a little white lie to dodge a tough press conference question. This is the kind of lie that could end his career in Cleveland. The kind of lie that rips the curtain down and forces everyone, fans, media, ownership, to face the uncomfortable truth about what's really been happening inside the Browns building. Browns fans have been told the same story for months. The rookies aren't ready yet. We trust the process. We need veteran leadership. The young guys just need time. It sounds reasonable on the surface. In fact, it sounds like what every team says when they're trying to bring along a rookie quarterback slowly. But what if I told you that wasn't the truth at all? What if I told you this has nothing to do with Shedeur Sanders' readiness, or Dillon Gabriel's readiness, or any quarterback's readiness? What if this is really about something much darker? Fear, power, and job security. Because when you look closely, that's exactly what it is. The Browns are 0-2, the offense is historically bad, and the only answer they keep giving you is stay patient. Meanwhile, Joe Flacco, a 41-year-old quarterback who hasn't been good in half a decade, is trotting out week after week. You've seen the ugly interceptions, the strip sacks, the late throws. If this is what veteran leadership looks like, it's not working. So why not play the rookies? Why not give Browns fans what they've been begging for, a look at the future? Because the moment Kevin Stefanski puts Dillon Gabriel or Shedeur Sanders on that field, he ties his career to their performance. Every throw, every touchdown, every interception becomes a direct reflection on him as a coach. If they succeed, he'll have to answer for why he didn't play them sooner. If they fail, ownership will finally have a reason to fire him. It's safer to keep them on the bench, claim they're not ready, and ride out the season with Flacco. That way, the failures are predictable, the media questions are easy, and the blame stays diffuse. It's the ultimate version of job protection, losing on your own terms so you can say, well, we did the best we could with what we had. But Browns fans deserve better than that. You deserve honesty. You deserve to know that the so-called quarterback competition this offseason was never about finding the best starter. It was about buying time and creating a distraction. You deserve to know that Shedeur Sanders, one of the most talented rookie QBs in the league, isn't even getting scout team reps. And you deserve to know that this team might be tanking in plain sight, gambling away another year of your fandom in hopes of drafting yet another savior in 2026. Tonight, I'm going to show you the receipts. By the end of this video, you'll see why the future of this team and Kevin Stefanski's job may be hanging by a thread. Let's talk about Kevin Stefanski, the man at the center of all of this. Because before we dig into the quarterback situation, we need to be crystal clear about why his credibility is so fragile right now. Stefanski was supposed to be the savior when he arrived in 2020. He was hailed as the young, offensive-minded coach who would finally bring stability to one of the NFL's most chaotic franchises. And for a brief moment, it looked like he might succeed. His first season was magical, an 11-5 record. The Browns' first playoff appearance in nearly 2 decades, and a stunning win over the Pittsburgh Steelers in the wild card round. Stefanski even won AP NFL Coach of the Year for 2020. But here, the problem. Since that debut season, things have been slowly, steadily unraveling. The Browns under Stefanski have become the very definition of mediocrity. Across his tenure, his regular season record now sits below .500, 41 wins, 46 losses. And while some of that can be chalked up to bad luck or quarterback injuries, we can't ignore the patterns that have emerged. Offensive inconsistency. In 5 seasons, Stefanski's offenses have never ranked top 10 in points scored. Not once. That's shocking for a coach whose supposed strength is play calling and offensive design. Historic lows. In 2024, Cleveland's offense was historically bad. They finished with just 3 wins, their lowest total since 2017, and averaged under 14 points per game over the final stretch. Some analysts have gone so far as to call it one of the worst offensive seasons since the late 1970s. Coordinators as scapegoats. Every time the offense stalls, someone else takes the fall. Offensive coordinators have been hired and fired. Position coaches have been replaced. But Stefanski, he remains untouchable. He's the one constant through all of these failures. And this is where credibility becomes the real issue. Because if you've been watching closely, you've probably noticed that every decision Stefanski makes is carefully designed to deflect accountability. When Baker Mayfield struggled, it was about the shoulder injury. When Deshaun Watson looked rusty, it was about suspension and missed time. When Joe Flacco throws costly interceptions, it's about veteran leadership and poise. There's always an excuse, always someone else to blame, but never a moment when Stefanski looks in the camera and says, "This one's on me." And that's why this quarterback situation is so explosive. Because putting Dylan Gabriel or Shedeur Sanders on the field removes all plausible deniability. If they succeed, it exposes how poorly the offense has been run up to this point. If they fail, it proves Stefanski isn't the QB developer he claims to be. Either way, his credibility is on the line in a way it hasn't been since that honeymoon first season. That's why every decision feels so cautious, so carefully managed. Stefanski isn't just fighting to save a season, he's fighting to save his job. And that fear is dictating everything the Browns are doing right now. And that brings us to the name Browns fans are getting sick of hearing: Joe Flacco. Let's be honest, this isn't 2012 anymore. The days of playoff Joe and that miraculous Super Bowl run with the Ravens are long gone. Flacco is 41 years old, on his fifth team, and hasn't been considered a true NFL starter in years. Yet somehow, in 2025, he's the centerpiece of Kevin Stefanski's plan to stabilize the offense. On paper, the idea sounded reasonable at first. Flacco was brought in as the wise veteran, the steady hand who could hold down the fort until the younger quarterbacks were ready. You've heard this story before. The rookie sits, learns behind the seasoned vet, then steps in when the time is right. It worked for Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City. It worked for Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. Why not Cleveland? Here's the problem: Joe Flacco hasn't been playing like a steady veteran. He's been playing like a liability. Through 2 games this season, he's thrown 4 interceptions and taken 7 sacks. His completion percentage is sitting under 55%, and the offense has scored just 2 touchdowns in 8 quarters of football. That's not stabilizing the offense, that's dragging it into the basement. And this is where the narrative starts to crack, because every week Stefanski stands at the podium and tells you Flacco gives them the best chance to win. But the evidence on the field tells a very different story. The Browns are 0-2. Their point differential is the worst in the AFC. And the locker room, according to multiple reports, is already starting to grumble about the lack of spark on offense. So why keep going back to Flacco? Some believe it's about trust. Stefanski knows exactly what he's getting with Flacco: safe, conservative football. He won't challenge the playbook. He won't go rogue at the line of scrimmage. He'll run the offense exactly the way Stefanski wants it run, even if that means 3 and outs and punting from midfield. But there's another, darker explanation, one that Browns fans are starting to whisper about. Playing Flacco might actually be part of the plan. If the goal is to keep the season under control but still lose enough games to position for a top draft pick in 2026, then Flacco is the perfect quarterback. He's just good enough to keep the team respectable, but not good enough to win consistently. And this is where fans feel betrayed. Because while the organization preaches patience and development, what they're really doing is buying time. Time for the coaching staff, time for the front office, and time to reset expectations yet again. The truth is, Joe Flacco isn't just a quarterback. Right now, he's a shield. A shield protecting Stefanski from accountability, protecting the Browns from having to face what their rookies really are. And the longer he stays under center, the more obvious that shield becomes. Before we can talk about the Browns' decision-making, we need to talk about the players they're keeping off the field. Because when you really understand who Shedeur Sanders and Dylan Gabriel are, and what they've already accomplished, you start to see just how ridiculous the not-ready narrative really is. Let's start with Shedeur Sanders. This isn't just Deion Sanders' son. This is a quarterback who completely rewrote the record books at 2 different schools. At Jackson State, he was electric, winning the Jerry Rice Award as the best freshman in FCS football, leading his team to a SWAC title and putting the program on the national map. Then he transferred to Colorado and did it again against Power 5 defenses. In 2023, Shedeur threw for over 4,100 yards, 27 touchdowns, and just 3 interceptions. That's elite production by any measure, and he did it while being sacked more than almost any quarterback in the country. Imagine how much better those numbers could have been behind a competent offensive line. Shedeur isn't just productive, he's polished. He has the quick release, the timing, and the calm under pressure that NFL teams dream about. He's vocal. He's confident. He commands a huddle like a veteran. And let's be honest, that swagger, that's what Cleveland needs right now. He doesn't just want to play football, he wants to lead. Now look at Dillon Gabriel. He might be the most experienced quarterback prospect in recent memory. Gabriel started 63 games in college, threw for over 18,700 yards, and accounted for 155 passing touchdowns. Those are video game numbers. He played at UCF, Oklahoma, and Oregon, proving that he could adapt to multiple systems and still light up the scoreboard. At Oregon in 2024, he completed nearly 73% of his passes for almost 3,900 yards and 30 touchdowns with just 6 picks. That's not developmental project production. That's a plug-and-play NFL quarterback. The contrast between the two is fascinating. Shedeur represents the young, rising star, the guy who could be your franchise face for a decade if you build around him. Gabriel represents the battle-tested veteran presence, a rookie who's been through more game situations than most fifth-year pros. Between the two of them, Cleveland isn't short on options. They have talent. They have leadership. They have guys who are ready to compete. And yet, they sit, week after week, rep after rep stuck behind a 41-year-old quarterback and a coach who refuses to pull the trigger. The Browns keep telling you this is about readiness, but when you look at who these two really are, that excuse falls apart. These aren't just rookies, they are the future, and every snap they don't get is a wasted opportunity to build something real. If you've listened to Kevin Stefanski and the Browns' coaching staff over the past few weeks, you've probably heard the same phrase on repeat. They're not ready. It's their go-to explanation for why Shedeur Sanders and Dillon Gabriel remain glued to the bench. But let's get real. Is this about the players not being ready, or the organization not being ready to face the truth? Let's break this down logically. Dillon Gabriel is 24 years old, turning 25 soon. He's only 2 years younger than Tua Tagovailoa, who is already entering his 6th NFL season. Gabriel has started 63 college games, thrown for almost 19,000 yards, and accounted for over 160 total touchdowns. He spent the entire offseason getting first-team reps, running the offense in training camp, and mastering the playbook. What exactly would make him more ready 4 weeks from now than he is today? Are we supposed to believe that watching Joe Flacco throw checkdowns on Sundays is somehow going to accelerate his development? And then there's Shedeur Sanders. This kid isn't some late-round flyer who barely played in college. He put up elite Power 5 numbers, 4,100-plus yards, 27 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, while being pressured on nearly every dropback. He's shown poise, accuracy, and decision-making beyond his years. Yet reports say he isn't even running the scout team, not taking second-team reps. In fact, some insiders claim he might as well be sitting in the film room with a clipboard because the Browns have completely shut him out of on-field development. If this is player development, it's malpractice. So what's really going on here? Simple. Job security. The moment Kevin Stefanski puts one of these young quarterbacks on the field, he ties his coaching future to their performance. If they thrive, the narrative flips. Fans realize the roster had talent all along, and that means the problem was coaching, not personnel. If they struggle, he risks being blamed for ruining a rookie quarterback. Playing Joe Flacco is the safest move because everyone already knows what Flacco is. No accountability. No spotlight, no risk. This is what analysts call the comfort zone mentality. The Browns would rather lose predictably with a known veteran than risk winning or losing unpredictably with a rookie. It's the organizational equivalent of staying in a toxic relationship because it feels familiar. Familiar failure is safer than uncomfortable growth. But fans deserve better. The Browns aren't just delaying the future, they're sabotaging it. Every week Shedeur and Gabriel spend on the bench is a week of lost experience, lost chemistry, and lost opportunity. The "they're not ready" narrative isn't just a myth, it's a cover story. A shield for a coaching staff terrified of what the truth might reveal. If you really want to understand why Kevin Stefanski refuses to play Shedeur Sanders and Dillon Gabriel, you have to go deeper than football. This isn't just about X's and O's, it's about survival. And nothing explains it better than something called the dark forest theory. The dark forest theory comes from science fiction, but it applies perfectly to the NFL. The theory says that the universe is like a dark forest. Every civilization is a hunter, moving silently, trying not to draw attention, because if they do, someone might destroy them. In other words, stay hidden, stay safe. That's exactly what Stefanski is doing. Playing a rookie quarterback shines a massive spotlight on a coaching staff. Every throw, every play call, every drive becomes a referendum on the head coach's ability to develop talent. If Shedeur lights it up, the question becomes, why wasn't he playing sooner? If Dillon Gabriel throws 3 touchdowns, fans start asking why the Browns wasted the first month of the season with Joe Flacco. That kind of scrutiny can end careers. Stefanski is coaching for his life right now. The Browns have lost 17 of their last 20 games, and the offense has been historically bad. This isn't speculation. In 2024, Cleveland ranked near the bottom of the league in nearly every major offensive category. The passing attack was dead last. The rushing attack wasn't much better. And if you take away the couple of fluke wins with Jameis Winston under center, you're left with one of the worst offensive stretches since the late 1970s. That's the real reason he keeps going back to Joe Flacco. Flacco is a known quantity. He's 41, he's slow, and everyone knows he's a bridge quarterback. When you lose with him, nobody blames the coach. The narrative stays safe. Well, what did you expect with a 41-year-old under center? It's the perfect shield. Stefanski can survive losing because he can always claim he didn't have the talent. But put Shedeur or Gabriel in the game. Suddenly, the microscope is on Stefanski. Suddenly, every stalled drive, every bad play call, every wasted timeout is no longer about talent, it's about him. And if they actually succeed, that's even worse for Stefanski. Because then fans and media start asking the question ownership has been avoiding. If the rookie quarterbacks are this good, why did we waste so much time losing? That's the kind of question that gets coaches fired. So Stefanski stays quiet, stays conservative, and keeps his rookies hidden in the shadows. It's not about development, it's about self-preservation. This is the dark forest in action. The Browns are tiptoeing through the season, hoping not to draw too much attention until they can reset in the off-season. But fans are catching on. The forest isn't so dark anymore, and when the lights come on, there will be nowhere left to hide. All summer long, Browns fans were sold a dream, an open quarterback competition. The message was clear: every QB on the roster would have a fair shot. Kenny Pickett, Joe Flacco, Dillon Gabriel, Shedeur Sanders, the team hyped this as the great battle that would determine Cleveland's future. Fans bought in. Media bought in. The narrative was set.
If you enjoyed today's breakdown and want to keep up with all the drama, trades, and behind-the-scenes action in the NFL, then don't forget to hit that like button.
But here's the truth. It was all theater. Reports coming out of camp show that the reps were never divided equally. Joe Flacco was given the majority of first-team work almost from day one. Kenny Pickett barely saw the field with starters before being shipped off to Las Vegas for a mid-round pick. Dillon Gabriel, despite being the most experienced college QB in recent memory, he was stuck behind Flacco in every major practice session. And Shedeur Sanders. He wasn't even running the scout team, which means he got almost no meaningful practice reps at all. Think about that. They called it a competition, but one of the competitors wasn't even allowed to participate. That's not a competition, that's a cover story. And what did this manufactured battle accomplish? Nothing but chaos. By splitting reps 4 ways early in camp and refusing to settle on a starter until late in the process, they actually hurt the team's preparation. Timing with receivers never developed. Protection calls were inconsistent. Offensive rhythm was a disaster. And then, just before the season began, the competition suddenly ended with the most predictable result: Joe Flacco as QB1. The Browns wanted fans to believe this decision was earned, that Flacco won the job. But how do you win a job when the race was rigged from the start? This is the part that infuriates players and fans alike. They didn't just pick a veteran quarterback, they wasted an entire offseason pretending they might not. And now they're 0-2, with an offense that looks lost and rookies who are no closer to being game-ready than they were in May. Even former players have called this out. Ex-offensive coordinator Sean King recently said, "How do you fairly evaluate 4 quarterbacks when you only get 12 meaningful reps in practice? You can't. It's impossible." And he's right. This was never about finding the best quarterback. It was about protecting the coaching staff's comfort zone while buying time. That's the deception here. This so-called QB battle wasn't meant to identify a leader. It was meant to distract you, the fans, while Stefanski and his staff figured out how to survive another season. It created just enough hope to sell tickets, but never enough risk to threaten their control. And the result, exactly what we're seeing right now: an unprepared offense, a frustrated fan base, and 2 young quarterbacks wasting away on the bench. The competition was a lie, and the truth is, Cleveland never planned to play them in the first place. If you've been paying attention to the Browns' season so far, one thing is becoming painfully obvious. This isn't just mismanagement, it's tanking in plain sight. And the motive? Positioning for the 2026 quarterback draft. From the very beginning of the season, the team has made decisions that almost guarantee failure. Keeping Joe Flacco as the starter, limiting reps for Shedeur Sanders and Dillon Gabriel, and hyping a fake quarterback competition were all part of a calculated plan. The goal isn't winning today. It's losing predictably enough to secure a top draft pick, ideally a so-called generational quarterback in 2026. The Browns are selling you a story about a generational QB class on the horizon. Analysts have been hyping the likes of Arch Manning and Cade Klubnik as the next big things, but the reality is starting to show cracks. Arch Manning is completing only about 55% of his passes and struggling in the SEC, while Cade Klubnik just lost to Georgia Tech despite returning an elite offensive line. Meanwhile, Shedeur Sanders outperformed every one of these 2026 prospects with far less surrounding talent in college. If his 2023 stats were given to any of the 2026 quarterbacks, they'd instantly be labeled generational. Yet the Browns are ignoring him. Why? Because Shedeur Sanders is a threat to the plan. If they play him and he succeeds, it destroys the narrative that Cleveland must draft a savior in 2026. The team would be admitting that they already had a talent capable of leading them to victory right now, but chose to keep him hidden for organizational convenience. That's not a story a front office comfortable with tanking wants to tell. Dillon Gabriel, the battle-tested college veteran, is similarly sidelined. His readiness is unquestionable, and yet he's getting minimal meaningful reps. The strategy is clear: suppress their development, maintain the illusion of rookie immaturity, and let the season fail quietly. By the time 2026 arrives, ownership hopes fans will be desperate for a true franchise quarterback, one they can draft, conveniently overlooking the young quarterbacks already on the roster. The danger of this strategy is that it's already starting to unravel. Fans are restless. Media scrutiny is increasing. Every week that the Browns fail to score more than 13 points or protect the football adds pressure on ownership and the coaching staff. The plan to tank gracefully depends on patience from the fan base, patience that's rapidly running out. The irony is brutal. Cleveland could be competitive today with the talent already available. Shedeur Sanders and Dillon Gabriel represent immediate hope, excitement, and a legitimate shot at building a winning culture. But instead, they are collateral damage in a draft strategy that prioritizes the illusion of a future savior over actual present success. Tanking is a choice, and the Browns have made it clear that for now, they are choosing predictable mediocrity over the risk and reward of unleashing the quarterbacks they already have. It's a dangerous gamble, one that could cost them more than just a draft pick. It could erode trust with the fans who have stuck by them through decades of frustration. By now, it's impossible to ignore the growing frustration among Browns fans. Week after week, they sit in the stands or watch from home, watching a historically bad offense stumble through games that feel like rehearsals for failure. The narrative of patience and rookie development is losing credibility fast. Social media is ablaze with criticism. Podcasts are dissecting every misstep, and fan forums are filled with two words repeated over and over. Enough is enough. Fans aren't just upset about losing. They're upset about the mismanagement of talent that could actually give them a fighting chance. Shedeur Sanders and Dillon Gabriel represent hope, potential, and excitement, everything a fan base craves in a franchise quarterback. Yet they remain sidelined while a 41-year-old veteran fails to ignite any spark. Every 3-and-out, every interception, every failed drive is another reminder that this season isn't about winning. It's about protecting the coaching staff's comfort zone. And it's not just fans. The media, long considered loyal to Kevin Stefanski, is beginning to crack. Analysts who defended the Browns' cautious approach earlier in the season are now asking harder questions. Mary Kay Cabot, a longtime supporter of the team, has publicly criticized the fake quarterback competition and highlighted the missed opportunity to evaluate young talent. Even casual observers are noticing the pattern. The Browns are not developing their quarterbacks, they are hiding them. This fracture between fan sentiment and media coverage is critical. When the narrative was controlled, excuses were easy. The rookies aren't ready. We need veteran leadership. Trust the process. But now, the cracks are visible. Fans are questioning every decision. Reporters are digging into practice reps, draft strategies, and internal communication. The story is no longer confined to locker room whispers, it's a public spectacle. This tension creates pressure that cannot be ignored. Ownership is being forced to answer questions they would rather avoid. Stefanski's credibility is under scrutiny not just on the field, but in every press conference and media cycle. The so-called safe approach, keeping the rookies off the field, is beginning to feel more like incompetence than caution. Browns supporters, many of whom have endured decades of heartbreak, see a repeat pattern. Promising young quarterbacks are ignored, coaches cling to familiarity, and mediocrity becomes the organizational standard. This season has amplified that frustration, and the cracks in media and fan perception are widening. The voices calling for accountability are growing louder. The fan base deserves more than polite reassurances and hollow promises. They deserve transparency. They deserve to see the talent they drafted or invested in, and they deserve a front office and coaching staff willing to take the risks necessary to build a winning team. The current narrative of development is collapsing under scrutiny, and with it, the Browns' carefully constructed veil of control. It's time to step back and ask the most important question. What do we want Cleveland football to be? Do we accept another season of quiet mediocrity, excuses, and hidden talent? Or do we demand the excellence the fans, the city, and these young quarterbacks deserve? Shedeur Sanders and Dillon Gabriel aren't just names on a depth chart. They are potential, raw, undeniable, and ready to prove themselves. They represent energy, innovation, and leadership, qualities that have been missing in Cleveland for far too long. Every game they sit on the bench is a missed opportunity, not just for the team, but for a fan base that deserves to see something exciting, something worth believing in. The clock is ticking. Every day that Kevin Stefanski continues to prioritize comfort over growth, safety over risk, mediocrity over excellence, the credibility of this organization erodes further. Fans are waking up to the reality that the excuses are running thin. Media scrutiny is intensifying. The cracks in leadership are no longer subtle, they're glaring. And the next few games will be pivotal. This isn't just about wins or losses. It's about accountability, transparency, and a willingness to embrace the future. Imagine what could happen if the Browns make the bold choice. Shedeur Sanders steps onto the field in Week 4, confident, poised, ready to lead. Dillon Gabriel, battle-tested and precise, takes meaningful snaps and develops chemistry with the offense. The team gains momentum, energy returns to the locker room, and fans finally have a reason to cheer with conviction. It's not just about victories, it's about signaling a shift in culture. A shift from protecting jobs to protecting the future. From comfort to courage, from mediocrity to ambition. And the responsibility doesn't just lie with ownership or coaching. It lies with the fans. By holding the organization accountable, by refusing to accept excuses, by demanding clarity, we can be the catalyst for change. Every comment, every post, every voice raised in support of the young quarterbacks adds pressure and momentum. The fan base has power, and the time to use it is now. The vision is simple. Cleveland should be a place where talent is nurtured, where potential is recognized, and where every decision is measured against one question. Does it make us better? Shedeur Sanders and Dillon Gabriel are ready. The team is ready for change, and the fans are ready to stand behind them. This is more than a call to action. It's a call to believe. Believe that Cleveland football can rise above its history of disappointment. Believe that smart, courageous decisions can turn potential into performance. Believe that the future isn't something to wait for, it's something to seize, right now. It's time to stop settling. It's time to demand action. And it's time to finally give Shedeur Sanders and Dillon Gabriel the shot they've earned. Cleveland deserves it, the fans deserve it, and the Browns owe it to themselves.
If you enjoyed today's breakdown and want to keep up with all the drama, trades, and behind-the-scenes action in the NFL, then don't forget to hit that like button. It really helps this channel grow and lets us know you love this kind of content. And hey, don't keep it to yourself. Share this video with your friends, your group chats, or anyone who loves football as much as you do. The more the conversation spreads, the better it gets. Most importantly, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel and tap the notification bell. That way, you'll never miss when we drop fresh stories, wild rumors, or breaking updates that the mainstream media won't talk about.